Welcome to the Church with No Walls podcast.
Hello, this is Ryan Dearbone, and this is another edition of the Church with No Walls podcast. And I'm excited today to have with me my father-in-law, Julian Paul, who is joining us all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. They are here. Him and my mother-in-law are here for a holiday, for a visit. And I thought it would be interesting to have him on because not only is he from another continent, so that adds a different level of conversation, but in the fact that he's a former priest. And so I was very curious about how COVID affected the media they have at their church, as well as just kind of how things have changed since then and his perspective on what we're doing here in the States. So with that, I want to welcome you. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here.
So first, kind of getting into it, talk a little bit about what, prior to COVID, what kind of media your church, well, first of all, your denomination, what denomination are you?
I'm from the New Apostolic Church International.
And how long were you a priest?
I was a priest just over 10 years, yeah.
And so now, in your time as a priest and just in your time in the church, how much did you guys use media, whether it be social media, live streaming, stuff like that, prior to COVID?
Well, media was actually one of the items that we make use of a lot, because that is also the way we reach people, and even for the infirm and those that are unable to attend, those that are still on the fringes, those that got issues, whatever, inside or outside of the church, family problems or whatever the problem is, so we reach out to them also.
And so for you, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that we do that through social media. You know, putting it on the various platforms that we have. We created our own Facebook page and things like that as a matter to get them closer. Yeah.
And was it pretty, I guess, pretty active? People used it a lot, or at least engaged with it pretty well?
Yeah, from the amount of likes and views that we got, we could see that that was quite a huge following. And we thought maybe that is the next way people will be going into, you know, to avoid social contact, maybe with the COVID coming up and things like that. So even prior to COVID, we had our social media up and running.
And so how many years would you say you guys had been using social media or those forums?
Well, since the inception of the church, I think, because we make use of the online platforms a lot. We are an international church, so that's the form we communicate.
And so when you say international church, does that mean so you're not just based in Cape Town, South Africa, but throughout?
Throughout. We've got churches on all continents around the world. And even as far as Dubai, China, churches in the Middle East coming up, Latin America, North America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all continents, yeah.
So because of that, you kind of had to have a function of social media for all the churches to be better connected. Yes,
but however, all churches got their own way of setting things up. They're unique in their own way. So we don't prescribe to them what they must do, but the social media was, encouraged by us to them, because that is the best form of communicating. Yeah.
And now in terms of services, were services broadcast on television, on YouTube, or some other type of live streaming, or was it just if you weren't at service, you didn't have the ability to see a service?
Fortunately for us, we've got our own TV station called NAC TV, which is a New Apostolic Church TV, on a channel in Cape Town, I think 263 it is, and we latch up there for services being streamed, and also our international colleagues and brothers and sisters, they link up to see the various services, and that's the way we keep in touch with each other. Yeah, for all developments that comes up, especially as far as the music is concerned, we're always linked up.
And so now, when COVID happened, when did you guys, I guess, realize, okay, this is going to be more of a long-term deal? And in what ways did you adjust what you were already doing with media and social media in order to keep your members connected and engaged?
Well, there were quite a few instances where we had to make a couple of changes as to what we already had in place. Because, as I said, all the congregations, they are unique in their own way. Our times, we have got official times, especially in South Africa. We try and make it our church services at one particular time, but it's not always possible. Sometimes there's a change in maybe a day or a couple of hours that we reach out to our congregations. But the change that we made was especially to encourage people to link up, and that way they stay connected, so that they can always get the same feeling as if you are in a physical church.
And was that kind of hard? Because I know here we had times where nobody was allowed in church other than maybe the pastor and a few people. So was it the same in South Africa?
Yeah, it was exactly the same, because I think the government brought in the amount of people that can gather at a particular time, and I think our services was I think at in the heart of COVID was 50 per congregation. And what we did was we try and have one or two services per day to see if we can accommodate as much of our members as possible. Yeah.
And so how did you guys deal with the music? So people singing or doing certain rituals of the church, did you make adjustments for that? And did you show those on air, or how did that work?
Well, we cut out singing completely. We greeted each other by means of the elbow, or just knocking of the head, to make acknowledgement. And there were no singing. We sat 3 meters apart from each other. It was all marked up, nicely organized. We make use of, obviously you had to wear your mask, and at the door as you entered, we had hand sanitizers, people sanitizing you, ushers showing you around where to sit, make sure that the distance is appropriate, yeah, that was, we make use of all kinds of measures so that we can at least make the congregation feel at home and feel safe as well.
And so in those times where it was COVID, nobody was able to be there other than maybe the 50, did you guys get a large response from people who were at home, who were watching the services, or at least engaging in some way? Were you able to gauge how many people were still connecting with you all?
Yeah, we could see on the amount of views that we have, and that service at that time was quite popular. We could see the views, and even after COVID died down a little bit, we could see that we have a slight difference in attendance, where people, just made sure and stayed away, maybe for a month or two later, connecting up to the internet. Yeah.
And you bring up to my next point. Do you feel like it's gotten back to the numbers that it was pre-COVID, or do you think there's been still kind of people who have decided, well, I kind of enjoy the online presence, I don't have to come to church, or I'm still kind of leery of some sort of generation of COVID or something like that? Have you kind of seen, what have you seen? What do you,
Yeah, well, the attendances took a bit of a dip. And it was up to us also to arrange and go into them explaining and just informing them that it is safe to attend physically. And but there was a bit of a dip in the attendance, yeah. So people were a bit scary, which is understandable. But as time went on, we had our numbers. We're not there where we would like to be at the moment, but people are drifting back.
and now has that affected things like offering, things where, people being active, because a lot of people are active in church, they come to events and they do different things. Has that taken a bit of a dip or a change as well?
Yes, I'm sure the offering was took a dip, but we had our internet offering that was going on, and people was a bit scared, especially physically making contact, and the fear was still there that they might get infected by some other way or means, and the little knock that we took from things like offering, we had to scale down on the Sunday school. There's so many other activities, the choir, and that came to a complete standstill. But we recovered, and we slowly, sliding back to where we were. But we're not there where we wish to be. Yeah.
And do you think you guys will ever get back to that pre-COVID status, or you think whatever you're at now is probably what you're going to be at?
Well, I think this is a long-term effect that it had as COVID. There were, I know, in all congregations in all countries, there were many people that died of this illness, and people got this fright in them that they don't want to be close to other people. They all of a sudden feel maybe a bit claustrophobic, or all of a sudden they feel that they're not safe in a crowd. It will take some time, but I'm sure you will get there. Maybe even if it's in a year or two's time, I'm sure they will come back. Yeah, because there's so many interlinks to a congregation. The whole family is there because children's is in Sunday school. It's expected of the parents to be around. There's a choir. You're expected to be there as well. And there are so many other, activities going around that you feel free to take part again, and we keep on inviting members to come back and ensuring them that their safety, we can't really guarantee their safety, but we will do everything in our power to make them feel safe. Yeah.
And then as a priest, obviously you have to think about it in a different term than somebody who's a member, because a member can choose to watch the service online, to participate as much or as little as they want to. But as a priest, you're still commissioned as part of your job to be there as much as possible, to do certain things to keep the church going, to help out the other priests and all of that. So for you, how did you tackle that whole thought process of, hey, I still I have to be there at times. I have to change what I'm doing as a priest in order to still affect everybody else.
Yeah, no, look, we are assigned a area of responsibility, and I tried from my side to engage with the members as much as possible, even if it's just a phone call. Sometimes, some of us has got like very huge areas to cover. We've got about 20 plus families, some of us. So we keep on going, making, if we can't be there physically, we're always there to make a phone call, encouraging them over the phone maybe, and just keep in touch so that they can know. And then if there's any other new happenings in and around the church, we always make them known so that they feel they are still part of the church, although they're not there physically, but we keep them informed, and we always invite them to engage in all the activities. And that is what our responsibility, or my responsibility was, to not to just leave them on the fringes, but to make them know that they are still important to us, and that our care that we had for them prior to COVID is still there, although we can't, connect physically with each other.
And you mentioned South, since you have churches all over and each one of them is unique, were you looking at what the other churches were doing and how you kind of went about how you guys tackled COVID? Or was it just more like, okay, we know how our membership and how our people respond, so we're going to kind of do our own thing while the other churches do what they do for their memberships?
Yeah, no, look, we are under one umbrella. As I said, our church services mainly are structured in a form where we attend at the same time. There will be activities, Sunday school, choir, or what, meetings and stuff like that. So there's always a structure, and we try and stick to that structure to make it like a uniformal thing. So what other congregations did around us, we sort of link up with each other and share ideas and empower each other so that we can know at least what we are doing coming from one stream, and we follow that particular stream. If it is a directive that came out to say that we sit 5-10 meters apart, we do it in all our churches. Sanitize, we do it everywhere. Compulsory wearing of a mask, we do that. Things like that. So there is a bit of a uniformity also that we try and maintain.
And so when we were talking previously about this, we talked about some instances of people who, that you knew who had passed away from COVID, people who were part of the congregation, people who were members of the church. So how did seeing that happen affect you all? Because obviously you don't want anybody in your church, anybody in your flock to succumb to an illness. But when you're seeing this happen, how does that kind of change you? And at that point, we didn't know if COVID was ever going to go away, or if it was going to still be the same as it was at its peak.
Yeah, no, look, it was traumatic for all of us, I think. And we tried to stick to what the rules and the regulations and the government directives were. As long as we do what we have to do within the confines of the law, we try and do that as much as possible. And we encourage the members also. We had obviously a lot of members that died, and we sympathize with them. With the funerals also, where maybe just the family are required to be there and no other person, maybe just a priest to conduct the service and to go to the cemetery. But we try and keep it close to each other, and we really sort of as a family move through this whole calamity together, so that we can feel each other's circumstances. We understand, and they understand that we are in this together, and we can be infected. Anyone can be infected, and a lot of the members were affected as well, because they lost, in some instances, a father and a mother, or vice versa, just a father and a mother, or sometimes even some of the children died. So from our side, from the church's side, we support as much as we could with the arrangements of funerals and also making families know that they are being cared for and that they are being loved and looked after, not only in a spiritual way, but also naturally where we can assist.
And one thing about the COVID virus that I thought was so interesting is that usually when something happens, it happens in one country or one part of the world, and so everybody's attention turns to that. But with this was going on all around the world. So I know I'm looking at the United States, but also I'm kind of looking at other countries and saying, wow, this is happening here, this is happening in this country, and how people are dealing with it. How much did you personally, obviously you had a daughter and grandchildren and family here in the United States and other people elsewhere. How much were you looking around the world and just seeing how it's affecting other parts, like hotspots in this place or that place?
Yeah, no, I was always interested to see like a world perspective around this, and it was easy also to empower you with the knowledge so that you can share to not only to family and friends but also in the church environment to say, look, we are all in this boat together, and nobody is spared, um, and whatever regulations or rules are being set, we try and stick to it as much as possible so that we can be sure, that we want to beat this virus as soon as possible. Because there's always new things coming out where we look to the United States, to Europe, what they are doing, and then we see if we can maybe follow suit. Obviously, there were a lot of homemade remedies and things also that was going around. There were a lot of these things that didn't work at all, but we encourage people to sort of to look after themselves, to do the basic things, stay healthy, sanitize as much as you can, keep away from other people, and even what we eat, have enough fluids and things like that, and to sort of just live a healthy lifestyle. And I think after COVID, most of the people sort of conducted a lifestyle that is a healthy lifestyle, because COVID affected a lot of people that had got underlying ailments, and we saw people maybe with high blood pressure, diabetes, and things like that. This virus affected them more than us, or the healthy folk. So we try and encourage that lifestyle also, not only for that period of time, but in the future.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, it kind of hit home that if you're not healthy, you should probably get healthy, because you still could pass away from the illness, but it's harder, seemingly harder for a healthier person to pass away from it or have the longer lasting effects of it.
Yes.
And so, kind of looking forward with the thought process of, okay, most churches now are using some form of social media, some form of live streaming so people can watch services. Do you think that, looking 5-10 years in the future, that people are going to use that as their chief way of going to church, or do you think more people will come back to the church, or it's going to be a little bit of a split where you're going to have your online virtual members and you're going to have your in-person members? You're going to kind of have a two dynamic.
Well, I think from our side, we will have this 80-20 combination where I think the majority, the 80%, will prefer to attend services. The 20%, it is also encouraged by us, to inform members that if you feel sick or ill, or even if you feel a bit tired, it is fine to stay at home and make use of the online platform. And but I think most of us, we prefer, the old method of physically coming to church and sitting there and listening to the word. And I think it's mainly because of the fellowship. It also gives you time to go out, to meet people, and just to interact, because with the online platforms, you sit at home and the environment is the same, and you don't see people, you don't speak to people on a face-to-face basis. So I think we will always have that majority attending physically.
And since you said it's like an 80-20 split, for that 20, do you anticipate having to do other things or additional things for them because you know that that's a segment that's important to the church, but it's also a segment that's not going to ever show up again in a physical presence. So kind of making sure that there's certain things just for them, or things that will been be a bit of a incentive for them to continue to keep viewing and engaging with the church that way.
Well, that 20% will definitely come back. Not come back consistently, but those are the people that are maybe retired, they are sickly, and it's a bit unable for, they've got maybe a disability or two, and it's a bit hard for them, maybe by means of distance, to get to the nearest church building to attend. But they will definitely not be written off. They will be cared for as if they were physically in a service. The contact will be there 100%. In fact, we will concentrate more on them, to show our interest and to make them understand that it's fine what they are doing. And then from their side also, what I've experienced is they try to attend at least once or twice a month, physically. And then obviously afterwards, if they don't feel like coming, into the weather's inclement weather, or whatever the reason is, it's fine for them to stay at home. Sometimes we encourage them actually to stay at home. Yeah.
So it kind of, to your point, it gives them an ability to attend, even if, like, bad weather. One thing that I found, like, if you're on vacation, you're out of town, or you have some other business to attend to, it used to be, if you missed service, you missed service. You missed the sermon, you missed all of that. You didn't have a chance to be able to partake in it. But now you don't have to worry about it. If you're gone, you have the ability, okay, I missed this Sunday because I was doing whatever. I can still view it on a social media platform or engage in it, or I can be, gone somewhere else and watching it live, and that's a benefit. Yeah,
no, and they make use of that opportunity that is being created for them, So we have no qualms, as far as senior members are concerned, disabled members, our sickly members. There is really no reason for them, and we stress it to them as well. There is no reason to feel guilty that you can't be physically there. We make it our duty and our responsibility to go to them, and bring them the word if we have to. As far as Holy Communion is concerned, we will serve them in the luxury of their homes. Share a word with them, and then go into Holy Communion and break a bit of our experiences with them. They've got the opportunity to open their hearts and tell us what their concerns are, and they are also aware that what they tell us, that we will really take care of that also if there is an issue.
Absolutely. So we've been talking with Julian Paul, my father-in-law, who is a former priest from Cape Town, South Africa. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up this episode?
Well, I'm just thankful that it looks as if we have broken the back of this COVID virus, and we've learned a lot as everybody else. And I think the message that stood out clearly after all this is that we have to stay together, and we have to assist each other and help each other, and whatever calamity, whatever is on the horizon, we don't know, but if we tackle this together and work as a unit together, we should be able to overcome anything.
And while you were talking, it made me think of one other point, one question I want to ask you. We always, in church, you talk about weathering storms. You kind of mentioned it, doing it together. How did something like this, when it comes to outreach and preaching to people, using this is a real life situation that a pandemic that no one has ever seen before, using that to spread the gospel, to talk about, okay, we talk about our faith, let's put our faith into actual action. How did that reveal itself for you?
Well, we made so many experiences of faith where people come to you afterwards and just letting you know that, if it wasn't for you, I'm so thankful that you came to visit me, and I'm so thankful for your phone call. I'm so thankful for the message that was sent. And, by receiving messages and gratefulness from members and friends and family in general, it makes us also feel stronger and make us realize that we are on the right path. And if we stick together, as I said, we can overcome anything.
Absolutely. Well, we've been talking with Julian Paul. Thank you so much for being on this episode of the podcast. You've been listening to the Church with No Walls podcast. I'm Ryan Dearbone. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you next time.